So the first half of this episode helped to confirm one major thing. Asuna's mom is a gigantic bitch and a huge pile of shit. Like, wow. Let's go. So it's a shame that it actually took this long for us to understand Asuna and get more into her story and who she ultimately is, because had I known a little bit more about Asuna, I think I would have liked her a little bit more earlier on, because like earlier on it was like the big thing that was good about Asuna was that she was a badass and everything in SAO1, but we never really dove into her personal life, her family, and what made her, you know, get on MMOs, a pretty girl like that. Why is she playing these games? So this episode, to find out just how shitty her mom is, her parents, her life, and what made her ultimately get into these games and everything. I understand the character, and it's a shame that it took this long for us to get this backstory and get what type of piece of shit her mother truly is. I mean, that scene, while, yeah, they weren't really animating anything because they were sitting in a dark room, so that aspect, probably you could argue that it was a little bit lazy on the animation, but just the amount of horseshit that came out of her mother's mouth and everything that she's done up until this point, basically selling her daughter down the river to pieces of shit, and to find out that her parents were responsible for that piece of shit, thinking that she was supposed to be his wife from part 1. I was thinking to myself, like, what the fuck? Like, this fucking asshole. So the mom in this episode just really clarified a couple things about Asuna and why she's just so desperate for like a real family, and a lot of her characterization up until now makes a lot more sense, finding out about her mother and just her life in general. I mean, she was even dissing her schools, everything about like her life. She basically in this episode shitted on her daughter's life entirely, and I was glad that there was a little spark inside of Asuna that had that comeback for her mother and saying, oh, you're just embarrassed that your father and mother were basically not rich and you weren't born into a wealthy family. And I was like, that's what's up right there. Getting a little fired shot at her, because her mother was just a scumbag. And the first half of this episode was just driving home, this is who Asuna truly is. This is why she plays these MMOs. And this is why she ultimately is the character that we've come to know. So it just really would have been a hell of a lot better had we known this earlier on. And SAO1, I feel this should have been shown, because this is some heavy stuff, and this really adds a lot more weight and validity to the character and just gives more depth to her. Like, oh, wow. Because, you know, with Shinon, we kind of understood her very well, and that's why she was a lovable character, and we were rooting for her time and time again. And if we got this from Asuna, we would have been doing the same thing, but I'm glad nonetheless that we got this backstory. And to find out more about her, I actually enjoy the character Asuna a little bit more, and just overall I think she's a better character for this episode. And a quick note for any Sankarea fan, is it just me, or did the mother look very similar to the mother from Sankarea? I was like, oh shit, she hopped series. We also find out in this episode that Zekken is actually a girl, and the fight that they had actually looked really fucking awesome and dope, and I was glad that this episode, if anything, these past 2 episodes for that matter, have just been doing so much wonders for Asuna as a character and as a whole, because the badass Asuna came back, she really went in against Zekken, was scraping her up and everything, so I was like, yo, these episodes are doing wonders for Asuna, and I'm just like, hell's fucking yeah, I'm actually on board a bit with Team Asuna, and I'm like, hell's fucking yeah. The fight definitely just looked epic as hell, and I'm glad that this episode did that, because had we gone through this entire season yet again without finding out more about Asuna or getting any of these cool moments, then it would just been another one of, oh yeah, who cares, really? I would have just been like, oh, Shinon is the only worthy female in this entire series. But Asuna, this episode and the last episode combined, kind of changed my mind about her. And the episode ending off with a cliffhanger with Zekken basically saying, please help us. Don't know what that's about. Could be that there's another threat. If it's just a typical MMO threat, like, oh, you know, the end game or something, then it's not going to be a big deal. But if it's something a little bit more, maybe there's some people in the real world that she's asking that, you know, they need help, or there's something to do that involves the real world, even though they have to do it in the MMO, then I'd be like, okay, that has some interest. But if it's just something like, oh, help us beat a boss or something like that, then yeah. But as a whole, good episode. I'm really glad that Asuna is getting this development. Again, it feels very late in the game, but better late than never. But never late is better. And ultimately, I gained a newfound respect for Asuna and understanding of the character, so that's definitely good. Give this one 7.5 out of 10. Beginning of this episode was mainly like 12 minutes of just building up the audience to want to fucking rip her mother's head off, like, clean off. And it's just like, get the fuck out of here, you worthless bitch. I hate shit like that. Like, yeah, okay, there's a certain amount of you have to be on your kids to want them to succeed and do better in life, but when you're trying to control who they're gonna be with, what schools they go to, like, it's just to a whole other extent. And for anime-only viewers such as myself, what do you think Zekken wants help with? I'm just hoping that it's not anything small time, like help us beat a boss or anything. I'm hoping it's something a lot grander and has to do with connecting towards real life. And your thoughts of the episode. Again, I felt it was a good episode and really just made Asuna shine. But that's all I have for this review. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say, or you wanted to beat the fuck out of Asuna's mom, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, if you could do so as well, that'd be awesome. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, fuck Asuna's mom. That bitch is a bitch. Have an awesome day.